Ooh. Oh no. Game capture, where are you? Oh yeah, there we are. All right, welcome back, ladies and gents, to another captured game. We've got the wonderful Reith / Phil joining me today. I'll just let these boys know that we're good to go. And we're here for Pariah. How are you, Phil?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, good mate, good.
I'm looking forward to an exciting game.
And it looks like Lucky Wild / Mike has picked up Pariah.
Interesting. This will be one of the last cut games with the old Malekith.
Yeah, because the announcement obviously is for next week for it to kick in. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So all of the round games this round will all be Malekith as is, and then he'll change to the new errated version from the next week's games, top 16 games.
All right, and we've got Fisk and Virus with
Interesting.
MagikNik to pick threat.
I imagine just on initial crisis drop, that probably advantages Nick, I think, as the Steve player for the Virus plays. I was interested to see if he goes 19 or 17, but I wouldn't be surprised if 19 here. Potentially a violent counter from Mike in retaliation. I think this will be an interesting game.
And Nick obviously has the Hydra side of things. Do you think we'll see some Red Skull action?
Potentially. So MagikNik's just said 19 threat. So I think looking at Mike's roster, he's got one of two options. He's got heavy violence to try and deal with what I imagine will be Nick's sort of extract steel shenanigans and his sort of fortress up under Steve. Or you'll have a Red Skull approach where he's using Red Skull's leadership to try and steal those virus back. I think the one thing that hurts Mike's approach, if he was to take the Red Skull here, is the fact that it is Mayor Fisk. So to get that Hydra leadership off, he needs to pile all these pieces onto the secures, and then he's potentially risking the stun as well. So that's something that may indicate that he might lean on the violent side just based on the secure that was dropped. But I'm interested to see what approach he takes here.
Now, obviously, you've been playing quite a bit of Malekith lately, with some Hydra offside. So I'll obviously lean onto you with your expertise. If you were in this situation for, let's say, from the perspective of playing into potentially a Steve extract boobery, as some might call, what do you think are some of the tech options that you're going to be built in and some play patterns we'll expect to see?
I think you'd be wanting to look to go as narrow as possible and leverage that basically the priority advantage that Mike got on attrition. So doing that probably at 3 wide ideally, but noting 19 points, probably more likely a 4 wide list. And trying to really lean into follow me and his ability to daze Nick's pieces to sort of avoid that legacy being flipped and evacuated.
Alright, we've got some rosters being generated. Starting with Nick, we've got Red Skull, Malekith, Bob, and Juggernaut as our splash.
Okay.
And what do you reckon of that? Let's go through it one bit by bit, shall we?
So it is a Malekith roster for Mike based on Dark Rain there.
And the Eyes on the Prize as well. Is that for Red Skull for the picking up 2 virus?
I think it's to grab one safely. So I think against Nick's roster, you don't want to be stuck on the center line where Black Cat or even Hulk can threaten a turn 1 play. It's interesting here that it looks like Nick's chosen to go a little bit wider, and he's looking for some of those tech pieces in Captain America and Ghost Spider to give him some secure play as well. So that's, I think Ghost Spider also potentially gives some survivability into the Malekith sort of murder train.
Something a bit more comfortable and familiar from last season, season 8.
Yeah, correct.
Now, by now, you surely would have been had some reps going into this sort of wrestler with Steve and the classic Hulk and Black Cat and stuff like that. Who do you think is at advantage right now with the turn zero setup?
Mm,
Or is that too? Is it too close? Too hard to say? You think?
I think it's very difficult to say. I
Because I
think
know that
on
a lot of
paper,
talk. Oh, sorry.
I like the Malekith. I think on paper, but I like Nick's roster with potentially, or more likely than not Hulk going last with some displacement and secure points. So I think Nick is probably less likely to go for a full evacuate here, but I am expecting him to lean, I think, on some more balanced sort of objective play. So I think it's very even. I mean, it could be a coin flip at the moment from my end. But I think the slight favour probably um, to Mike, just based on the crisis drop. I think
So
the grunts will be very, very advantageous here for this crisis.
yeah, I was just about to say I'm surely feeling like seeing the Red Skull in this situation with the grunts. I just every game I've played against him or have seen just the skull, the grunts, especially with deployment potentially baiting people out. It's just they just do so much work for a five threat piece.
And hello to Billemsthorpe, who's just checking in on YouTube. I like the tech with You Know Who I Am as well on Mike's side to give another option to peel off the pieces and the defensive layers with Steve. But I really like Ghost Spider as an additional defensive layer to help counter that Malekith Ferocity charge.
All right, deployment done, power on, and off we go.
I wonder if he's going to make that. I don't think he will. I think he needed to deploy further over.
Looks pretty tight. It was funny during the pre-game ramble when they were having a chat. I did catch them having a bit of giggle of themselves about this being the last good go of the classic Malekith 2 power ferocity nonsense. So they both like, "Did you bring Mal?" It's like, "Yes, I did."
A last send off.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
I've certainly, I pretty much put a delete on Malekith out of my rosters. Not because I think he's unplayable anymore, but I'll be thankful to actually go back to playing other things for a little while.
Some wholesome MCP, some might say.
It's wholesome as sort of a Black Cat, Voodoo, Juggernaut, and Hulk meta is, but um, I think there's more variety of options as opposed to just the murder which Malekith offers.
So no power being spent by Red Skull for his superpowers or eyes on the prize. Looking to
I
secure
think that's
both.
okay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think looking at this, there's not too much scary damage output on that side of the board from Nick's squad.
You think it
I
was
think
there just in preparation for the mirror with the Malekith on the other side?
yeah, it also offers Eyes on the Prize also offers an option for Malekith to grab it as well. Um, and I'm expecting Nick to grab at the end of the round. I think Black Cat's going to steal one off someone. I think Red Skull's a prime target for that now that he's there on the secure.
Oh, Hulk next activate, surely to pick up the virus.
And maybe double move, pick up, and then gamma launch back with that reduced power from Steve. Yeah, back to safety.
Yeah. It's definitely been a play pattern we've seen from MagikNik before, especially when you look at some of the games during Season 8, retreating back to that Steve Castle and utilizing the tech from Black Cat and the just to retreat back onto the one side essentially and score out with the extracts.
Yeah, it's obviously a play pattern that's proved effective. So not necessarily looking to capitalise on the most points turn one, but sort of that longer term game outlook to win out on points, and it's certainly working for him lately. I really like the Gwen positioning here as well. So if you look, I'm pretty sure I didn't measure it, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if you've got a Ghost Spider in lifesaver range for Hulk here too. That 1 power lifeline is really impactful under Steve's leadership, having that online from turn one. Juggernaut going up.
Oh, we've got the eyes coming out for Jugs.
Yeah, okay.
Come through, pick it up. I mean, when else are you going to use it, I suppose?
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's very much a turn one sort of tactics card. I do love the Bob edition here too. I do enjoy seeing Bob on the table.
How have you found Bob with your games going in? Have you found him like has it been an attrition piece to have a sneaky two threat throw out his big damage piece, or is it just something that's just an annoyance that people have to kind of deal with and take notice of?
I find him to be a really good objectives piece. Is how I sort of play him. I really like his ability to, for a two threat, he can undying two threat on turn one. He can go and sort of as one of my last moves, just go and sit on a secure and help me win points. So I've been impressed with him in that way, and I tend to save the rocket to either keep him alive or to add some late game attrition. But I'm not taking him for the rocket. I'm taking him to as a piece to just sit on a point or to force attacks out, and I really enjoy him in that role. I constantly am surprised at his output.
I think the boys are just uh, debating and just like just finalizing some positioning around that piece of terrain with Juggernaut. That shouldn't want to be a problem.
Yeah, obviously two very experienced players with a good understanding of the rules, so you're seeing the pace of the game flow fairly quickly.
Now with that 3 health on the troopers on the opposite side, they're going to be able to stick around for quite a lot of time to secure those 2 points with that Hulk retreating. So amazing value coming out of those guys. Just every game I've seen them in the game, they've just been amazing, brilliant.
I agree. I really enjoy the value out of the troopers. I'm interested to see how the board evolves and which side Nick pivots to, but I'm expecting a pivot probably to the Red Skull side here, or potentially away from the Malika side once we see Malika go. So I'm interested to see um, where the fight ends up. But initially, my thoughts are that it's probably going to end up in Red Skull over this side, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see all of Nick's sort of pieces pile up there and give him some defense against Malika through his sort of layered tech with Cap and the lifelines from Ghost Spider.
All the games I've seen MagikNik play, he's never too rushed. He's always making sure that all the measurements are there, taking his time, considering what's most likely to happen board state wise into the next turn. Like he's a very calculated player. Um, and notably, he mentions in a lot of interviews that he doesn't play too many like practice games and like pre-measured stuff like that. It's all just him and all his time playing through and and like positioning through all these games and experience, especially with things like War Machine.
Yeah, okay.
It's
So
just
what we're
it's just
seeing
great to
here
see.
is, yeah, it is. I enjoy his sort of very methodical approach. It's different to Morgan, but there is a similarity in sort of the efficiency to which they approach. Just saw the 1 power airlift here to bring Black Cat up, which gives her the opportunity to move. It lets her get some distance, I think, from that secure potentially with that virus, which I really like.
And R&D to secure the 2 power, ready for the steal.
Yep.
I assume we've just gotten our pass from Mike.
Yep. And we're seeing the Black Cat steal here. So I wouldn't even be surprised if we see a situation here, turn one, where Mike maybe goes up on the secures. So he scores sort of 4-2 here. I wouldn't be surprised based on his
Or even
ability to add
fire
pressure. And
two with the virus on Juggernaut, right?
oh yeah, sorry, good call. Yeah, so both secures and one virus.
Quite a bit of ground catch up, I feel. But I suppose there's no point coming up into the Red Skull, especially with Pryor going over to Mike and the option of both Red Skull and Malkith into that piece that ends up being over there. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you'll have a little bit of damage done through the virus. Oh, sorry, through the secure to some of Mike's pieces, and I think the Malekith leadership will help mitigate that next turn, but it won't mitigate the stun. And I think the only real impact for that is going to be Red Skull. It'll just mean that he's only getting the 1 power for when he damages himself rather than the 2.
triple check that bodyguard range, maybe within 4.
Yeah, he might just be putting
Yeah.
Cap in cover here just to provide some protection for Black Cat and Sam, which I think makes a lot of sense. Keeping those sort of key objective pieces of his up for sort of late game.
If we do go to a 5-2 state, I mean, does that put so much pressure onto Nick to force assembling Exodia to push for the 8-point swing at some point?
Potentially. I think Virus is one of those interesting sort of play patterns. I think that it can really 8 points can swing so quickly to change the game. I think the big difference is going to be that we're going to have to start seeing Nick's pieces move to get to the secures to score. And I think we're going to start seeing some Malekith attrition work from sort of the beginning of next round.
As I mentioned during your game before, when you were playing as a Hell Cannon, the first roll with Malkith I find so nerve-wracking for both the player and the opponent because how well that dice roll goes typically has such a factor on how much momentum Malkith, how much impact on the table, and how soon it will be, based on how much power it'll generate.
Yeah, I do find that the biggest thing for me is the one thing I want the most out of it is enough to get the throw off. I find if I get the damage throw, I was generally pretty happy because often that it was the displacement that actually earned me the extra VP that first round. I'm interested to see if I think Nick might check for lifesaver range here. I'm interested to see if he put himself in range. Oh, just out.
Oh,
Okay. So maybe a Steve bodyguard here. No,
oh,
into Sam. Okay.
first roll of game.
You're right. This roll is so critical. I think if Mal one shots a piece here with the throw, it's really impactful.
Yeah. Only 2 squeak it through. Do get the throw, but no days.
And it also means that Nick isn't using brace to keep Sam alive, which I think is big.
Oh, into Black Cat potentially to start chipping
Yeah,
away.
okay. I don't mind that. I mean, Juggernaut's the next close, is the only piece she can steal off, and she's already got a virus, so.
I mean, Sam's less of a concern in this sort of roster setup because he's not pushing Malkith or Juggernaut with his shield throws, so.
Potentially not Red Skull too. I think his energy side prevents the push. Yeah, can it be? Oh no, it's only mystic attacks.
Mystical, yeah.
Yeah, so the Sam still can do some work. I think his main advantage will be doing some work against those the non-Malekith and Juggernaut pieces.
Oh, good
This
defense roll,
will
good
mean that
dodge.
Ghost Spider can double move Webline Red Skull off here to score the secure here by not having Malekith on that. So that will help Nick points wise. That will actually put him ahead, I think.
Yeah, 4-3. But it will mean that she will be in danger going into round 2.
Yes.
Oh no. Oh, I think this will be the free
This,
attack.
yeah, free attack. I mean, why not with Gwen, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. So one block. So some damage through on Malekith too, which is never a bad thing. Oh, Gwen hits hard.
Alright, 4 squeak 3. Plenty of power.
Okay.
Interesting. Valuing
He's using.
like the turn 2, turn 3 support that she provides defensively over the extra 2 points turn 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind this at all. I think, as you said, this is very much looking in the long game here.
Now we've got the castle set up with Malekith going
Yeah,
first.
but this is really tough to crack, right?
Yeah, big time.
You've got the bodyguard and the lifeline. Like, there's multiple layers here to keep those pieces alive.
And Assembles haven't even, and we haven't pulled the trigger on Assemble yet, so we still got that in the bank as well.
And you potentially now got Hulk bullying that other side of the table. So I don't mind this at all. I think this is some long-sided play, I think, on Nick's behalf. And just
Yeah,
some extra
having
damage
only,
on Malekith is always
yeah,
good.
yeah, great. And obviously he's immune to stun, so no worries there. Yes, this is exactly what I thought we were about to see. So putting it towards Hulk and only having the threat of Bob and the the Hydra grunts, I think Hulk is just, like you said, just going to absolutely bully and take control of that side now.
And just a good observation from some of the crowd. So that Red Skull's energy does protect because the web line's a superpower. So that's why Nick didn't have that open as an option.
Oh yeah, of course. All right, measuring for Butcher of Thors, I imagine. Almost a full stick of butter, so plenty to work with. A lot to chew
We're
through.
just to see if there's going to be maybe a beam into all these pieces on completion. I think that's potentially a good way of getting around the fortress, is that you then do damage to all of them.
And even if Steve chooses to soak it all up, he's not the best friend of mystical attacks, is he?
No, he's not. I mean, it's still dicey, but adding skulls always helps.
Now, you being a Cabal player at the moment, would you be tempted to pull the trigger on Dark Rain at this point? I know you can't get rerolls onto Black Cat, but maybe to really make sure to take out Steve in one good go, knowing he's going to get the bodyguard off?
No, I'd save it for a KO normally, unless I'm desperate or unless there's a really high health model you want to sort of burn through. I generally prefer it on a KO. So I'd like it onto Steve's sort of injured side to take to KO him and try and get through that health pool in the blanks, but I would personally be saving it. Bob's Rocket's another really good outlet for it.
Well, full power coming off, so I'm assuming we're doing a Butcher, and Steve spent a power 2 for a bodyguard.
Okay.
Oh, big boy roll.
Yeah, that's a big roll. Steve blocking 3 here with cover. 8 damage needed to get him just short.
Throw some conditions on him for what it's worth and a place. Now with Steve with the body card, now that he's taken the hit, does that mean he's the target and you place off Steve, or is it still off Black Cat?
No, you place off the target, the character you attack. So he becomes the new target. So the place will be off Steve. Yeah, and I agree with your call here, Chewy. I think this is prime time for the beam. I'm interested to see if some lifesavers from Gwen will help here a bit, but I think that's what we're seeing position wise is the beam setup.
Let's give our viewers a bit of a help with having a look. Curious if we can get all 4, maybe just 3.
Measuring for cover here, maybe. Or maybe just to look at his attack options. No, he's going the energy attack. So the Blade of Midnight based on the 7 dice. So it looks like 6 dice must be into Steve.
Oh, he's done well.
Oh, 4 blocks. That will do it. So no damage and no throw. I guess that's one of those examples of when Malekith really does the opposite of what you expect, and just the dice just don't rock up.
All right, now that we've gotten the chance and Nick's gotten away with murder, literally away from murder, where are we going first, do you think? What's the priority?
For me, it's probably Cap to maybe attack once, get rid of the bleed, generate some power, and do some damage on a Malekith.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's the starting point, just to make sure he does activate and you get the value out of him.
Yeah. Just start the dog pylon and hopefully by the end of the round potentially do that 6 damage into Malekith.
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
Or
Malekith does go down more quickly than you think.
he certainly will when people are allowed to reroll into him.
Yeah, yep. So it's interesting. I think the play pattern for Malekith's really going to change a little bit. I think we're going to see a lot more objective play with him turn 1, or potentially setups of things like deception and do you know who I am to try and get the pieces back to him, and then maybe a move, pay for skulls on the first attack rather than a ferocity.
Do you think? Oh, no. I was just curious about the decision between the beam and the strike. I was just thinking, was he trying to get the KO guaranteed onto Steve to trigger the leadership to get Red Skull into position and then follow me? But even just generating 1 power, he wouldn't have enough. So interesting point to ask Mike about after the game.
Yeah, like I think I liked the beam there, but maybe the decision was that he was worried about Gwen's lifesaver. But I liked the use of power from Gwen. I liked the baiting of that out and then kill whatever's left. Would have been sort of my approach. But I mean, it's easy to say that it was a bad decision on Mike's part, and I don't think that's the case. I just think that the dice punished him for rolling badly.
That's it. The dice can make you look like a fool regardless of what you decide.
Correct. The odds are he definitely should have dazed Steve there.
Oh, yeah.
Even just doing the 1 damage, he would have got it through. But I mean, MCP dice do that. They swing really heavily both ways, and inevitably it'll probably even up for Mike on a later roll in the game. A big hit from Steve in a Malekith and doing some big damage.
Yeah, 2 left. You weren't wrong. He does tend to go down faster than people
Yeah,
think.
just 1 or 2 spikes and a poor defense roll, and it can really hurt him.
Now, given this board state and the threat of Hulk on that other side, do you think we'll see Juggernaut rotate that way with the Do You Know Who I Am to potentially throw him off the point later on, or do you think he'll come on and help out Malekith?
I think you've got to go help Malekith here. That's where the fight is. I think the reality is Hulk is going to bully that side. It depends how you look at it. On one hand, if you look at it that Hulk is winning that side and he's scoring 3 points. On the other side of it, you could look at it that you're tying up Hulk with 2 threat with Bob, which lets Mike apply more points pressure on the other pieces.
I suppose 2 viruses are on this side where Malekith is, isn't it? So
Correct. I think this is where the points for the game are. But saying that, you're going to see Black Cat, I think, slowly run away with the points in the game as it happens. Because if Juggernaut comes into the fight, which he's got to do if he wants to do some attrition work, then he's in cat stealing range, which puts pressure on Mike then to chase Black Cat, which is probably a good thing for Nikki.
I like the fact that Mike's starting to slow down, understand the situation, and collect himself and make sure he's making good decisions. Again, Mike, another great player, is very very aware of and been playing for a long time and very successful player. So not too rushed with the clock. I've seen quite a few players get a bit rushed with clock time and trying to stay on top of it during the early rounds, but recognizing that he has time and is looking to make good decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I find it as myself. I often rush and I regret it at key points, and I think wish I'd slow down. So I like seeing that you've got these experienced players that do that. And I think it's the right Mike. It's certainly anyone's game still at this point.
Absolutely.
Because of big dice spikes and even a leadership trigger on Malekith here to put him out of danger and heal him up can be really impactful for Mike in sort of helping him get back from that sort of poor dice roll into Steve earlier.
All right, we've seen the walk, we've seen the slide.
I wouldn't be surprised. A lifesaver here, maybe, is what I
Yeah.
would be expecting.
Depending on the angle, maybe not be able to pass the Black Hat though.
Yeah, so if I know with Eye on the Sky, I think it's the same. So if you lifesaver Sam off here and away, then I'm pretty sure that if you do that, yeah. I know, he's taking the hit. So he's paid for the extra defense dice.
Well, Steve's
Went
taking
on to
his one.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve taking his one.
Steve, that makes sense.
Gets the wild. Push him hopefully outside 2. And then ready for Prior for round 3.
Yeah, so an interesting one with that. If you Ghost Spider the web line, lifesaver the attack off, I'm pretty sure Juggernaut loses his dice because it's only on the next attack.
Yeah. Actually, I've been on the end of that before, and it's caught me out. It's a really nice, cheeky
Yeah,
little moment.
it
feels terrible.
Really bad on the Juggernaut player, I'll tell you what.
Yes.
It feels really good with the Gwen player, though. Really, really good. So Steve's got his use out of that. I mean, he's done some great damage to Malekith, taken a few big hits, and he's now going to be on his injured side for the beginning of next turn. So he's been really impactful, I think, for Nick here.
Yeah, huge damage sponge. 2 attacks from Malekith, and then that big 8 dice from Juggernaut. Put in real good work. All right.
So the steal here, I think, and the
Yeah,
rotate maybe over the safety of Hulk. What I do like about Gwen here is that she can rotate with the other pieces and sit behind them, and then you've got a safety net for Black Cat and Steve into that ferocity next turn, which I think really helps.
I think Mike's identified that straight away and is starting to measure up that size, that range 3.
You've got to get rid of Ghost Spider,
Yeah, big time.
but yet she's not holding the points. So the longer the game goes, if you haven't dealt with her, I think the worse it's going to get for Mike. So yeah, I don't disagree with removing her early. I think Mike has forgotten the leadership trigger, but it is a mandatory. But I don't know if we've got
Ooh,
any
yeah.
accusers here, but we can't step in. We'll leave it. It's up to the players. If we do have any accuser in the chat, please please identify yourself just so we can hit you up. Yeah, Chewie's just said the same thing. Yeah, it's definitely Malekith, Chewie, because of the Dark Rain. Yeah, it's a really easy trigger to miss. It's definitely something I've missed a lot of the time.
And so important as well. Can be very
It is.
impactful.
I also, yeah, I find it's like the other trigger, leadership trigger I often miss is the tokens, the winging it tokens with Star Lord. I find that to be one of the hardest leaderships to remember.
Now, Hulk holding the virus, there is a world where he comes over and pops over to Black Cat's hat at the end of round 2. Too early?
No, I don't think so. I think the danger always of putting Hulk anywhere near Malekith is you do have that Dark Rain option. And a couple of big spikes with a follow me can really wipe out Hulk if it goes wrong.
The boys discussing whether or not the medium base can be fit on that piece of terrain.
Yeah, I don't know. From my mind, it's looking pretty tough to fit that in.
Now, I'm still fairly new to the MCP scene as far as like these sort of like rules interactions, but in that situation there, because the tool had been put down, does that mean because he's not allowed to be on the train piece, there was no way for him to shift the movement tool? Is that right?
So the way, I guess, once the movement tools are down, there should be no moving of the movement tools once you've sort of picked the piece up to start moving it. There's potentially a bit of leeway with your opponent, but yeah, here you go, the lifesaver here from Gwen, keeping her out of danger. But you're correct. He couldn't, once he'd sort of declared that movement in that direction, he couldn't then change it once he'd sort of picked up Red Skull.
Oh, Red Skull setting up for potentially a Black Hat for turn 3.
And he's also, the other thing he's missed here is the grunts, which, as Chewie said, it should have actually moved first.
And in this situation, would that mean the grunts miss out on their activation, or does that
I
just
think it
come down
depends on
to
probably on the players and how impactful they see it as being.
Yeah. Or perhaps Mike's feel that they're in a good position. There's nothing else needed to do with them, maybe.
You'd be wanting them on the witness, right? Maybe this is showing that Mike's a bit flustered after that roll.
Yeah, I was
But
just thinking the same. Not squeezing through that 1 damage. Ugh, that's a tough pill to swallow. But he's not out. There's still options.
and it might not impact anything at all if Hulk rotates over, which it looks like Nick's maybe considering now. Then potentially Bob just sits on them. I think we're just seeing the catch-up play here for the grunts.
Yeah.
So the players obviously agreed that they'll just do the grunts activation. It'll be interesting. I think the secures are still going to help Mike here. I think keep well and truly up with points for sort of this round. So
When listening to a lot of content creators, they typically talk about this one particular or major point in the game when it comes to a particular line or decision. I think for Nick, this might be it here with which way he wants to go with Hulk, whether he commits to that side and opts to push for those 3 points each turn, or if he pulls back in and tries to help out his little spuds down this way.
I think one thing's for certain, all of Mike's pieces are in position for murder for next turn on this other flank.
Absolutely. Power
But
for
I do
Dark
agree with
Rain,
you. I
follow
think,
me. It's all good to go.
yeah, there's a big decision here for Nick as to which side he sends Hulk here.
And I mean, he's got Assemble still, so Gamma Leap, Assemble, potentially within range 2 of Red Skull for a double attack with Hulk. But we might see Sam go first.
The 3 power spent here, so I think for an airlift and a charge. Yep, from Sam.
Is this to get
Getting
her
really
back
good
within
use.
2?
I think just to help her movement. So really, and maybe even some attrition work, weirdly, with Gwen. She can do some real work with that double attack. And
Couldn't quite remember if she was within 2 already of Malkith or not, but yeah, I see your point. Oh, 3. But a great block by Malkith, so. Second stab.
oh, that's a strong shield.
It's always those 4 dice attacks, isn't it?
I find that shield attack for some reason. It hits like an absolute monster.
We're going into Red Skull. Can't recall what.
And can't be pushed because of
Yeah.
the superpower. It's only the superpower, so he should be able to get pushed off this. Yeah, good comment for Vodka here, saying that he thinks Nick might just play conservative with Hulk over the far side and just use mission objective to deliver the virus, sort of in a later round, early round 3. And I agree. I think that's a sensible approach. I think keeping Hulk away and bullying that other side away from that Dark Rain, I think is a good option.
Yeah, Dark Rain, follow me, Red Skull, and Malkith. Ugh.
But on the flip side, potentially you see a throw here or a hit that helps sort of Hulk survive. So, yeah, okay. So committing Hulk to the fight. Maybe double move throw here.
Double move throw. Double move throw. Avengers away.
Avengers assemble.
Yeah.
Avengers assemble. So
Oh, yeah, it's guaranteed the point.
the point. Yep, I like that. And you've potentially got Gwen helping Steve to keep some of these key pieces alive next turn. So maybe getting the brace out. Yep, the brace has come out. But what it does mean is Nick has now got 2 pieces on that witness.
As it stands, Nick to Gab 5 points, putting him up to 7. If he's able to do that, and then assemble for turn 3 and hold one of the sorry, one of the fist points, we should be able to lock out 16 by the end of 3.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on Mike at the beginning next turn to deal with those. You've either got to get rid of Days Hulk or deal with sort of that Steve Black Cat wall.
We might go a whole game without seeing a bloody Bob Rocket. I don't know how I feel about this.
I think you've got to remember that there's a couple of options for Mike to move Bob in. So there's either Hydra Tactics, which he's got the power for if Malekith charges and he's within 2, or you've also got the leadership trigger for the movement. So there's a couple of ways that Bob can get in there and potentially rock it.
Gwen needs to do 2 damage, or potentially even leave him just to leave him on 2 to ensure that he goes down round 3.
Maybe to pull away here to buy
Yeah.
some space.
Yeah.
Yeah, spending 1 power.
Go for our little forward eye slap.
It's not a bad option. Malekith does drop surprisingly quickly on his flip side, and there's no healing cards. There's no Midnight Phantasmagoria or patch up on Mike's side, so you do get the damage through. You can do some real work on his flip side and know that that damage is going to stick.
Good positioning to keep Black Cat within range for pull as well.
Yeah, and safer than that Steve bubble. So there's some, I guess, the double layer defense there again.
All right, end of round, 5 points to 2, so 7 to 5.
Parity, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike needs to really make some magic happen here. Top of 3. No doubt we'll see some Dark Rain, some Follow Me action. And curious as to if it'll all be piled onto Hulk or if that's just a little sponge. Not in range for for mission objective, but I couldn't tell if he was within 4 or not. Potentially the fallback into the mission objective, which is a nice play pattern that MagikNik was utilizing during season 8 as well.
Yeah, it potentially gives him it potentially saves him from the throw. So if he displaces Hulk with a throw with ferocity or displaces Sam with a throw and tries to burn through Hulk, that fallback gives him an option to actually get back to position to mission objective. Although even with Dark Rain, I think it's a big ask to burn through all of Hulk's health here.
I think this is. Do you know who I
Do you know
am?
who I am? Yeah.
Yep. Oh, into Black Cat race though.
But it will get the brace out, which will mean that you can potentially throw Hulk into Sam. Dark Rain.
Dark Rain.
Yep. So the
Token comes out on
all
Hulk,
in.
so Hulk's the target.
Who's your following character? Who would you use here? Would you use Bob or
Oh.
Red Skull if you could?
I mean,
Oh, assuming they're both in range, I don't know if you'll be within three of Bob. But
yeah.
what would your target be?
I mean, from all the games I played with Red Skull, I've been against. He's basically a better version than Corvus, so Red Skull would be my pick. How about you?
Interesting one is I think I prefer Red Skull too, with Bob maybe as a late activation. But the other hidden one is Red Skull. If he's got the power, his spender is actually surprisingly good. 9 dice with rerolls and a throw is actually a cheeky way of getting some big damage through. I think it's a good way of using Dark Rain on him.
Oh, assume this is the ferocity. Get back into position.
It doesn't have the power for Do You Know Who I Am is the other thing here. So he's looked at the range, obviously, but it's 1 power short.
I think you
But
might
if he
be
gets the
anticipating
leadership,
for the days. Yeah.
yeah, if
Yeah.
he gets the leadership trigger, he'll have it, which is a good observation. So there's potentially some big throws piling up here too.
All right. Some important dice rolls coming through for Mike. Oh, some skulls. Some skulls are good.
You never mind seeing skulls on Malekith, right?
Yeah,
It
especially
takes a
with some
bad roll to
rerolls.
a
Especially with
real.
some rerolls. All right, we'll take 8. Oh, and rerolls, of course. What am I talking about?
Dark Rain, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
So Mike's got a couple of cold attacks here. You'd expect a couple of rocket attacks coming up shortly.
I assume that was power for the rerolls.
Yep. And no damage. So I think the throw here into Sam, ferocity.
Did damage go through? Surely.
Yeah, there's 5 through to 2 blocks, so 3
Yeah, we
damage
just
goes
haven't put
through.
it on just yet. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the players will catch up, I think.
Yeah.
So expecting to see brace here, maybe.
Maybe not, because with the days, Juggernaut will then get the power to be able to throw. Oh, but then you don't have the. Oh, then you have the repositioning with Butcher. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Making sure we're clearing bases.
Yeah, it looks
Some
fine to me.
some cold dice on the old Mal this game.
They always come back in
Yeah,
some capacity. I think we'll see it at
absolutely.
some point. And if they don't, then I feel for Mike if he goes a whole game with just cold dice.
Well, we still got one more big slap coming through, so and we still have the follow me potential.
Yeah, so he needs to do 3 damage here to get the follow me online. So Nicky's taking the dodge damage here. He's trying to dodge, so yeah, Sam will daze. I think Red Skull might be the option here, just based on the proximity of everyone near Hulk.
Well, I think the reason why he's kept brace is potentially the threat of Juggernaut getting the extra power. slide plus the size 3 terrain throw there into Black Cat.
I like it also to keep Steve up. So I think Steve is vulnerable, obviously, to the throws. So if you can brace up your sleeve for Steve, then you can potentially just make it so the only way to deal with him is just to beat through him, which is always a hard
It's
hard
always a
ask.
hard ask, yeah, especially on that injured side, right?
Interesting to see he's measuring off that.
I
I would
think
expect him to go into Hulk here with the Dark Rain up.
what range is the spender for Red Skull? Is it 2?
The suspender range is 2, yes.
Yeah. Alright, second big attack.
So that's a bit better with a pierce and a crit.
Fully expecting to see Hulk, not Puny Banner, in a minute.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You just spend it all the time, right? And just
Yeah,
try and survive.
absolutely. Well, that's a lot better from last time. 6 with a pierce. This is the fallback, I think.
Fallback. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like this.
Get yourself outside of Red Skull.
So Hulk's taking a bit of damage there, but I don't know if it's enough. So this is where I potentially like maybe doing it off Red Skull, but putting him sort of just north of that banner there to give Bob a target as a backup target for Follow Me, and then he can bounce off him. But Nick's tactics guards and well-timed use have really come in clutch here, I think, in keeping Hulk alive.
Yeah, every time I play, I watch MagikNik play, I always learn something new and how to utilize some of these cards. So fallback typically, traditionally for me, has been one of those cards I've left to the wayside in favor for others. But he just utilizes that particular card so well from the games I've seen him play.
I agree.
All right, who's going to be?
Juggernaut. Okay.
How important is it right now to the Days Hulk? Is this the win condition? Just to make sure that um to get him out of the game, to make sure that he doesn't
I don't
assemble the
know if
virus.
it's I don't know if it's the win condition, but I think if he doesn't deal with Hulk, if Cat can get over there and have them evacuated to her, then all that Nick has to do is score one, secure this turn to
Yeah,
get the game. So I
yeah.
think to some extent preventing it is the win condition. But I think it's going to be a tough ask now. I think Nick is probably in the driving seat after this. Yeah, so Vodka's saying, it's pretty much a staple in their local meta up in Montreal for fallback. And you can see why, I think, from the impact it's had on this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Hulk's obviously well and truly charged up here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some real punch back into some of Mike's pieces here as well. Weirdly, I think Bob and Skull are both top kill targets, I think, at the moment.
Do you know M coming out? Are we looking to see to throw Hulk as far away as possible now that Avengers are off? Assemble, I should
No,
say.
it's only a size 2 to throw into him. Yeah, maybe a long throw away.
Yeah.
I don't know if that hurts Nick, though. I think that buys Nick maybe some time.
I mean, the double move with Black Cat, right?
You got a double move, and you've got a double move and the place 2 off black card is the other thing to remember here.
Is mission objective the active character?
So the character that's using it has to pay for it. So Hulk needs to pay it during his activation to pass it to Black Cat.
Oh my god, what a card.
Yeah, Hulk has potentially sort of 3 short moves with the place 2 with Gamma Leap here to get his movement going. I don't mind this and just double shield throw, potentially get even 1 ricochet can take Bob out here if he gets it. If you take 1 or even both of them out, you significantly reduce that risk to Hulk.
Oh my god, these shields.
He got the ricochet here is the key bit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh, that's Bob down.
huge.
I mean, he never dies, but
No, he never dies, but
it feels bad when you want to get that rocket off and can't quite get there.
well, second shield still to come.
Some strong vibranium shield throws coming from Steve here.
Oh, needs to land this one. Oh, and he does. Well done.
Yeah, I think that puts Nick in a really good position here. He's got 1 left on Red Skull. I think if he dazed him there, it would have been very tough.
Yeah.
Because potentially you've got Steve just takes both hits here. And once Red Skull activates, all you've got to do is just get Black Cat across the board. And Hulk can do it on his way and just throw Juggernaut off the point, and you can secure that witness, or even Gwen can just move over and web line one of them off. So there's multiple ways of, I think, scoring the other points. Yeah, it's amazing how often the pieces survive on that 1 health.
Yeah.
It was interesting that I was listening to one of the podcasts this week, Alfredo's Taco Truck, and I was saying Strucker's leadership from one of the recent in real life tournaments. It's amazing how often pieces survive on that 1 health because of the leadership going off, and it's that sort of unseen impact, I think.
So Webline coming out.
Yeah, that lifesaver is so strong, isn't it? 1 power as well. It's so efficient.
And so I think looking at the state of the board, even if he moves, like, there's just no way to get to Black Hat now.
Well, even if you advance short after attacking with Red Skull, there's still every chance that you get another Steve bodyguard coming back, right?
That's it.
It's interesting to think how much this game swung off a couple of rolls from Mike and even that Dark Rain sort of attack.
I mean, even that top of turn 2, where he missed the opportunity, that window for Steve to go down and get a full. Oh, and even the damage he was able to bring to bear to Malekith as well.
It's weird, but some part of me is not unhappy that Malekith's been nerfed a bit, mainly because I find playing him for the dice so stressful. I find your whole game plan sort of goes off how well he rolls, and I find that a really stressful way to play.
Yeah, as I was mentioning to you before, like I just find like even as the player as well, I get so anxious about those first and second activations with him, because if it does go poorly, he's just a 7-threat tax that really isn't getting you value at all. And I think here we come to the conclusion of the game now with the double move, and Hulk gets in with the mission objective.
Yeah, so Nick's just finishing it quickly, handing it off.
Yeah, and then the web line
at that point.
Yeah,
he's just demonstrating that he basically scores both.
Yep. GG,
Yeah,
and the game's called.
GG. Yep.
Not the send off we wanted that Malkith was certainly looking for, but great play in defensive layers brought by from Nick to secure the win. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, and great use of some tactics cards there too. So very much the defensive sort of layered tech really helped him.
All right, we might give the
And
boys
thanks to the,
a little bit of time just to post game have a chat, and we might jump in there and ask a few questions if you're up for it, mate.
yeah, of course, yeah, and obviously thanks to the listeners as well. It's always good to have some of the MCP enthusiasts sort of tuning in and getting involved, and the active chat was really good. There was some real value added.
All right, mate. I might see you in the room.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll jump over.
Yeah, sounds good. See you in there.
Yeah. Just too much.
Yeah.
Well
Alright.
done, gents. A fantastic game to watch. Congratulations, Nick, on the
all
win.
all three turns.
Yeah.
It's legacy virus. It can
Yeah.
end real fast, right? Yeah.
I mean, we called it at the start of the game. We saw the virus drop down and his choice for threat and hitting that 19. I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be quick, isn't it?"
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely on the back foot to start with. Just I probably should have done something a little different, but I really thought my attrition could punch through his defense, and just my dice just didn't do it. Like, I was slightly below average on most of my Malekith rolls, which really added up, made a big difference. Not dazing Steve turn 2, like, that was huge.
Yeah, we made several comments about that particular moment being such a hinge point for the board state, and having him activate and him just around for that little bit longer just to mitigate a lot of the damage coming through.
Yeah, if I can manage to if I get him down that turn, I feel pretty good because I can put some real work into Black Cat at that point. Still have Red Skull and Juggernaut to do some work then, and no bodyguarding. Like, Juggernaut couldn't even do anything because all he could do was 1 damage to Cap. He couldn't even gain power to charge or do anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. All right, boys, are you guys right to have a few questions come through for the end of the game?
of course.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I am. I don't know about... I won't speak for you.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
I
All right,
guess.
cool.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with squad selection. Mike, obviously getting the crisis selection. Phil and I were talking about how best, because obviously Nick has the options to rotate into Steve, but also had the Malkith option. Did you bring the eyes on the prize simply for the fear of keeping off the bin line with him having the Malkith option? Was that what it was there for? Was there something else, other nuance there potentially?
That was part of it, and part of it was my thought with Red Skull was to run up, grab the virus, and retreat with him, because he can make it in one move, pick up the legacy virus, and then fall back, and make it really hard for Nick to get that legacy virus back.
Yeah.
But then when his Hulk was across the table, I was trying to weigh, like, oh, I lose Red Skull's damage when I do that. And if I can sort of pin down Steve, Black Cat, and Gwen against Juggernaut, Malekith, and Red Skull, I feel really good about that in terms of damage and being able to put a bunch of stuff in the ground. And it just didn't work. Like, I did, just left too many guys on 1 health. Like, it just never, I never got that spike that I really needed to take somebody off the table. And granted, I mean, it was a quick game. There were only a handful of attacks, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, both Phil and I were mentioning that it's like that first swing with Malkith really sets the tone and momentum and how he can impact the game. How were you feeling after that first attack going in and maybe not hitting on curve, we might say? How was that feeling? Were you feeling a bit stressed with the anxiety kicking in? Because
No, at that point it was fine. And we were joking. I mean, his Gwen did more damage than my Malekith. But that was okay. Because Sam wasn't a target that I really needed to take down. So that kind of felt like bonus damage anyway. The real kicker was the Butcher of Thors and then a Ferocity not taking out Cap.
Yeah.
That was the game right there. If Cap's gone, then Nick's got to adjust his strategy a little bit because it's open hunting season on Black Cat at that point. So it forces Nick to activate Black Cat there. Maybe he doesn't have the confidence to come in and Juggernaut's not in position for a steal anymore. Like it made such a huge difference.
I know Phil has a particular question around that moment, but I want to pivot into Nick. Nick, with your choice for 19, I really like the squad, and we mentioned a lot about the utility of Gwen in the game with that one power lifeline. Is this something that's kind of been a staple part of your roster going through Swiss as well?
Not this season, surprisingly. I don't remember all my Swiss games, but I don't think I've played her a lot. But she's amazing when she's good, right? Like in that 19 squad, she does so much of protecting, right? Like when I had my little defensive bubble around the terrain, what felt amazing is Juggernaut and Red Skull both really dislike Lifesaver. It's a really great tool against them. It like removes a lot of their efficiency. Right, because you lose the empowered gauntlets or the extra dices on Juggernaut. So having her protecting Black Cat around you felt pretty good. She's always great. I find in those kind of like maps, the Lifesaver is so good, to be honest. Yeah, and the one power web line is also pretty good, right? Like that's how I was gonna clutch the end of the game in this round. So yeah, she's really amazing, and she really like it was sad because like Sam was so close to being able to being in range of the Lifesaver,
Yes.
and in range of hitting Red Skull. I really did need to hit Red Skull for the power, but like yeah. It was so close.
I've got. I mean, I could talk to you boys about this game for a while. Actually, there's quite a few things I'd like to pick your brains about. But I know Phil has some burning questions too. Just the last one for you, Nick. We were talking about like in games. Typically, there's that one decisive decision or play line that you have to kind of choose between. I noticed that your Hulk was in position to potentially bully the top right-hand side from your perspective of those the two threat and the grunts. Did you consider that as an option rather than coming down and securing the win with the 3 virus collection? Was that something you were considering as well?
At some point I did consider, right, like depending on how Mike was going to approach my defensive bubble, one thing I was considering is also just switching back to Oak side, which was kind of like Mike's weak side, because right, all my models are pretty mobile. Like I can in between airlift and like a bunch of long movers, I could have switched back to the other side, so I was like keeping that option open to just rotate completely to the other side once his offense fizzled out. But once Juggernaut came in and I was like, okay, I can seal and go for the virus plate, and I switched back to that plan. But it was definitely something I was considering initially, for sure. It was part of the options I was keeping open.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for that, boys. I'll pass over to Phil.
Yeah, Mike, there was a point there. Obviously, you mentioned that you prioritized trying to get rid of Cap with the bodyguard on that sort of critical turn 2 activation with Malekith. Did you consider after that Butcher's attack putting a beam in to try and sort of force the bodyguard out and give yourself a couple more cracks with dice, or did you sort of weigh the odds and put the throw and the builder's chance with the Pierce to be sort of higher probability?
So I did, and I think you can actually see me measure it on stream. I could only get 2 in the beam. Nick positioned really well, and there was enough separation there where I didn't have a good line that I could have beamed 3 of his models. If I had placed Malekith a little bit differently, maybe. I just, I don't know. I thought, like, taking Cap off the board was my priority. I felt really good if I did that about Red Skull's ability to deal with Gwen and Black Cat for a turn, and then bring in Juggernaut to secure the point. So I figured I would just want to take the best probability to get rid of Cap and just get him off the board and not worry about it, and then move on from there.
Yeah, it was something that we commented on, that it would have looked like an amazing decision if the dice had sort of gone your way, or if you probably had the averages of the dice and put him down. But not getting that sort of makes it look like you're sort of trudging uphill. But it's interesting how the dice can affect it sometimes like that. The other point is there was a misleadership trigger when you did days.
Yep. I realized it later, and that's the problem with not playing with an accuser, because that's a mandatory. That's not an optional, unfortunately. But we were past it, and like I realized it a little later in the game. I actually missed 2, but that's okay.
I think you missed another one.
No, I missed 1. I caught the one with Sam. I missed the one on top. So I missed. I completely phased out about it either. Like
In my mind, for initial, I was thinking you were gonna be playing Hydra, right? It's like I didn't even register the leadership.
And that's
Yeah.
I have been playing
Yeah.
a lot of Hydra, so like I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of reps on Malekith. I don't have that muscle memory to like
Yeah,
remember
I don't remember the board set, but I'm not sure if that leadership trigger would have been. I guess you
Uh,
would have healed Malekith potentially.
Well, I
I don't
couldn't
know.
because Malekith did. Oh, I could have healed Malekith, or I
Is it
could have
with
moved Red
Juggernaut?
Skull up
Yeah.
into the fight.
Yeah. Which could have
But
helped.
then
Yeah.
you ended up knocking him. You ended up life saving, and I could have maybe had it. That doesn't matter. It's inconsequential at this point. So.
And I guess my other question to sort of both of you, probably starting with you, Mike, first, was did you sort of consider a change of list or a specific sort of tech squad, noting that I guess Nick's fairly famous for playing his sort of Steve C. Avengers squad? And I guess the same question in reverse for sort of Hydra and Malekith on your part.
For me, I usually run patch up, and I swapped it for Brace for Impact this game because I was really concerned about Hulk throwing around my Malekith, and I generally don't run this tall either. But I felt like my only chance on Legacy Virus was to punch really hard. Like normally I would have broken Juggernaut down into like a Zemo and maybe a Voodoo or something like that, and taken Bob off, which in retrospect may have been better, but I thought like I had enough damage to really be able to give Nick a hard time. And as I said, it just didn't.
Yeah, completely fair. And I guess for you, Nick, did you consider sort of adjusting your
Didn't
squad?
do
Or
exactly one switch. I swapped one tactic cards. I brought Recalibration Matrix instead of Birds of Prey because I
Okay.
was expecting Malekith, right? So I was like, well, Recall for all can be pretty useful. I ended up not choosing it because on Legacy Virus my cards are pretty tight.
Right.
But that's the only switch I did because I wasn't sure if I was assuming might have Voodoo, but I was more worried about the attrition coming from like a Red Skull plus Malekith setup, right? In certain scenarios, so I was like, Recall might save my butt in those situations. So that's the only change I did versus my more baseline list, if you want.
Right, well, congratulations
that's-
again. Oh, sorry, Phil. You go for it, mate.
Sorry, you go.
I was just going to congratulate Nick again, basically, for a great game, and of course, great showing from both of you as well, Mike. Well done for making it as far as you have, and we just want to wish Nick the best of luck. Was there any questions you want to finish off with, Phil?
No, thank you very much for letting us stream it. And well played to you both. And yep, thank you for the great showing.
Yeah, good luck, Nick. That was
Thanks. Yeah,
despite
I'll try.
despite the MPE, it was actually a fun game to play, and you're always a great like opponent.
Yeah,
always,
well, you too. You're a great guy. Always a pleasure to play with you. We're hopefully gonna meet again next season.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, we're not that far apart. We might have to do this in person at some point.
Yeah, true. Also, yeah, that's another thing. I gotta fix on my end, my passport issues, which is actually getting fixed. So I'm gonna be able to travel to the States soon. Hopefully be able to get a tournament in or two. And we also have some plans for like a team tournament at some point in our local game store, which might be something interesting.
If
like
you-
a really big event.
If you do run a team tournament, let me know. I will bring out and rep a Strike Better team. I'll make Farmer fly out for it.
Oh, that would be pretty awesome, actually.
That'd be so cool.
I'll
Yeah.
try and get there wherever I can while I'm over in sort of mainland US.
There you go. We got 3. We got to see if we can get Morgan to fly to the States for it.
Yeah. Well, I think team tournaments are really something I want to look forward to getting going. It's such a fun setup. But yeah, all right.
Well, thanks for the game, man. It was fun, and
Yep.
best of luck in the future. I hope I get to say I lost to the season winner. So like, keep some credibility. Like, I lost to him, but he kind of won. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to do like Morgan, right, and have my name on that leaderboard 2 seasons in a row would be